Hello, hello. Welcome to Dylan Knows Paranormal. It's Sunday. It's May 19th? I
18th.
guess 18th.
18th, I think. Yeah, it's the 18th.
It's 19th. Hold on a second. Let me look at my
Dylan
phone
knows
here.
nothing about the calendar.
Yes, it is the 18th. Yes, it is. I know nothing about the calendar. It's not paranormal, so I'm not in paranormal aspect right now. But for those who don't know, I am Dylan. This is my show, Dylan Knows. I do it every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, depending on special circumstances. It might show up on a Saturday, it might show up on a Friday, show up whenever. But I try to do weekly, and every week in the month is a different topic. And this week just happens to be paranormal. And I have my lovely co-host with me today is Miss Larissa. Larissa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? How are you guys out there in whatever land? Radio, YouTube. Where are we?
YouTube, Google Plus land.
Google Plus land. Ooh,
Doing okay, doing all right. It's a nice day out today, but
beautiful.
yeah, it is. But before we get on to our show, hey Larissa, why don't you tell people what you're affiliated with?
I am a writer for paranormalpopculture.com, and we were just talking about how I just put up a story about the ghost of Michael Jackson. So that's the kind of stuff we write about. Now, we write about anything business that has to do with supernatural, paranormal, weird, anything, TV, movies, comic books, regular, novels, music industry. Talk about Coldplay and ghost stories, Michael Jackson showing up in England. Anything in the entertainment business that has to do with the paranormal.
Sounds like fun. It is. It's an excellent site, and I went on it and I read Larissa's piece on the Ghost of Michael Jackson. We'll probably discuss it a little bit later in the show. It is very interesting. Not her story's great, but the actual event itself, the picture and everything. It's something unique and interesting that we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so for those who usually watch the show, you also know that I have the Q&A up, which means those who are watching, which right now stands at 0 viewers, but that's okay. All my regulars are like, is there a show today? Didn't he do one last Saturday and didn't do one last Sunday? I don't know. I'm sure they'll pop in eventually. But if you are out there and you're watching, absolutely feel free to jump in on the Q&A and talk about whatever you want. We are discussing paranormal, so that's ghosts, aliens, bizarre stuff like that. So today we're just going to do some news of the weird stuff and maybe a little topic about skepticism. So I figure we may as well start the ball rolling with some of the news of the weird. All of these, with the exception of the Michael Jackson ghost, come from the website Unexplained Mysteries, which I highly recommend everybody who's interested in this kind of thing go explore. It's perfectly set up where if you have an interest in just ghosts, if you have an interest in just UFOs, if you have an interest in cryptids, they have just sections with all the new recent stories that have popped up about those. Normally, some of which you might not even heard about through your regular news channels, because a lot of the news channels they don't print them really anymore. So these are just stories that popped up all over the world, and some interesting stuff of it. There's also other things on there as well, just not regular paranormal stuff. They have bizarre stuff and science and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting site. I highly recommend check it out. So. The first one we're going to talk about today is, for those who don't know, the Chinese, they launched a moon rover onto the moon, I'd say a month or so ago, I guess, a couple months ago, and it was running smoothly for them for a while, and then all of a sudden, it stopped transmitting. And people, the first, of course, the first scientific and probably the truthful reason for it is it wasn't protected enough in the cold of space, and the cold finally damaged it enough that it can no longer transmit. However, there are people out there who believe in the conspiracies and possibilities that, A, this was either a U.S. conspiracy, we were somehow able to mess with it, because we had no connection with it, I don't know, but they blame the U.S. for that. And then the other one is that it was aliens on the moon, somehow dismantled the moon rover. So
Moon elves.
that would be pretty cool.
Like that gremlin from that Twilight Zone episode. He lives on the moon. damaged things.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you've got those deep, dark craters. You never know what's in there. I mean, there's always been some interesting stuff about what's going on the moon. I mean, there's rumors that Neil Armstrong claimed to have seen aliens when he was landing on the moon for the first time, which I do believe. I do not believe in the conspiracy that we faked the moon landing, and I've already discussed that in much detail, so I'm not going to get into that here. But I believe that they actually did land on the moon. Do I believe they saw something? Probably not. But that's one of the rumors that they saw something. And also there's been a book out that I read. It's called like The Dark Side of NASA or whatever, and talked about how there are like crystal.
Ooh.
Whoa, cool.
It's alien.
It's like I hit it on the nose. There's something up there. There's something up there. Knock, 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 knock. But there's crystal pyramids or something up on the moon because their proof was that a lot of the astronauts who went up there, when they came back, they could not remember some of the things that they saw up there. And there was one astronaut who was an artist, and he was drawing pictures of the moon landscapes, but he had all these colors all over it, like almost like a prism. And this guy jumped on that and said, well, you know, there's proof right there that the sunlight's reflecting off of these crystal, temples or whatever on the moon, and it caused the brightness, the different colored prisms to cover the moon. All kinds of really interesting theories about what's up on the moon. So, you know, some interesting stuff. So, could it have been aliens that trashed the moon rover? Probably not.
There's so many things that could go wrong up on the moon. I mean, you know, what is your opinion on us inhabiting the moon someday? Would you ever want to live up there?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a pro space guy. I mean,
it just there are no malls up there. There's supermarkets. There's no. You'd have to build.
Well,
like,
you have to build a
for me up there.
The Moon Gourmet Store.
Williams Sonoma, Sephora, and a Whole Foods, and I'll be up there.
But I think in general, I just like the idea of space exploration. I always have, and I like the idea of using the moon more as a catapult to Mars, because I truly believe that if we had not had the Challenger disaster, if we did not have some of the other space shuttle disasters and some other stuff, we might not necessarily have been on Mars yet, but I think we probably would have gone back to the moon by now, and I think we probably would have been talking seriously about taking the next step into, you know, maybe testing, you know, manned missions to Mars, because I think of everything, Mars is probably the most, well, actually, it is the only planet we could conceivably inhabit. Mainly because, well, yeah, mainly because due to the fact that Mercury's too close to the sun.
Too hot, yeah.
And it also has extreme cold. Also, the areas that does not reach the sun is extreme cold also. And then Venus is like what Earth is going to be probably in a few million years with the greenhouse effect and, you know, the clouds, and it's going to be it's like hell on a planet. I mean, it's like the temperature is like 3,000 degrees on the surface or something like that. It's maybe not that much, but it's still, it's basically uninhabitable, and it's a big giant volcano, you know?
Yeah.
And then Mars, which is the most logical one, and then all you got is the rest of the gas giants. Now, the gas giants have the moons, which might be a possible, you know, inhabited places, but at the same time, you're getting further away from the sun, though, so it's going to be much, much cooler. So you got to figure out some other way to, you know, keep yourselves warm, because we cannot survive in the extreme cold of outer space. So, but, you know, Mars is much more interesting to me than the moon is. I like would I want to live on the moon? Okay, maybe I would just like to live on the moon maybe for a little while, to say I was there, to see the Earth and the sun and see the asteroids and the stars from that version of it. But I would think my more interest would be probably more discovering of Mars. Actually, it'd be okay, I'm living on the moon for a while. I know what it's like. I've got an idea of what it's like to live in a hostile environment. Let me ship over to Mars now, which is really interesting to me, not only because of all the theories that have abounded about aliens and creatures on Mars, but just the fact that they have so much interesting topography on it. The biggest mountain on Mars is I don't know, like 10 times bigger than Mount Everest or something like that. It is huge, and just to see that in person would be amazing. And to see Cydonia, which is, for those who don't know, Cydonia is big in the conspiracy theory world as being possible pyramids built on the surface of Mars, which is proof that aliens have lived on Mars. And it's right near the face on Mars, which we have seen pictures of. The face is no longer really visible anymore, but who knows what that is. It would just, to me, it would just be an interesting idea just to land on a different planet and just wander, across the planet,
You just want to be called a Martian.
Yeah, that could be it too. I think it's more of the fact that I'm really intrigued to see maybe there is alien life on Mars,
Hey, I guess it's possible. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, yeah. I mean, I was looking through that. I follow somebody on Twitter. It's like Unexplained Photos or something like that. And there was, I was looking, for some reason, I was looking through their Twitter feed today, and they had a picture of this area in the south part of Mars that has these grayish-black smudges that pop up annually almost as if it's like a life cycle of a plant work, and they're in the same location. So they believe that it could possibly be some sort of plant life on the surface of Mars. And that intrigues me in itself, is that, I mean, it could be, once again, it could be anything. It could be rocks, it could be the shifting of rocks, sand, dust, whatever. But yeah, to me, the way that they've been studying it, and it's some Hungarian agency is studying the pictures or whatever, and they said this looks like the life cycle of plants or something like that. So I don't know. Anything else to add to our space talk, Larissa? Or
yeah, I watched a screener for a show. Gosh, I can't. It's like Unexplained Alien Files. Opening the Alien Files. It's terrible. It's like a Discovery show, I think, or Destination America. I should know that. I'm just thinking of it as you're talking, but I found it interesting. They say that let's focus on grays. The way they look.
Mm-hmm.
There was a theory that the grays we see are actually us from the future, because Have you ever heard about the theory that over evolution we're going to look kind of like that? Our eyes are going to get bigger.
I don't know if I've heard. I've heard something. I think I've heard something like that, but I didn't really.
Yeah. Evolution is going to basically make us kind of look like grays look, how we think grays look. And the theory is that we are the grays from the future. They're time travelers, and that's us. What you're seeing is us.
Okay, that's
it was just like it was bizarre. I was like, my mind is going to explode. But it was interesting. It was that we're time travelers from the future, and that's us.
And I guess it's kind of interesting because time travel has been getting a lot more.
We want it. We demand it. It's actually. I mean, if time travel existed, imagine the chaos, though, and people. If you change history, I mean, I bet none of us would be here. Like my mother would. I don't want to meet that son of a bitch. I wouldn't be here. But seriously, like the chaos that would occur if time travel did exist and people took advantage of it, it would be just devastating, I think. I mean, people say, "Oh, I'd love to go back in time and relive my prom," or when I was a little girl and we had Christmas Eve and it was beautiful. But man, it would be abused. It would be ridiculously catastrophic. So, I mean, it's one of those be careful what you wish for scenarios. So
absolutely, I think, and I agree with that because my own personal opinion is I would like to go back as an observer, but it would be really, really hard for me to not go to the government and say, hey, on September 11th, 2001, we're going to have a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center buildings. Look out for these guys, and you may as well catch them off at the pass. And then what's going to happen then is if they end up believing me somehow, or they believe me in some form or another, and they catch the guys, and 9/11 doesn't happen, well then guess what? You've just created an alternate dimension, and that's exactly what you said. It's going to become almost. We don't know what it could happen. I mean, something like that. Would our timeline then cease to be? And then even the minutest little thing we might not have had a major connection to it. Maybe is that going to affect? It's going to affect everybody in some shape or form, right?
Yeah, it'll be a butterfly effect to it would be potentially just really horrible. I mean, and again, there's that romantic illusion of time travel, but and anytime you watch something about time travel, there's always like, don't alter history. Like there's that you can't make it change, and human beings are just way too stupid not to. Let's put it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're greedy, and we would change things, and it would cause a snowball effect that would be just horrible. So,
and then here's the thing. Also, maybe even if we somehow have the self-control not to touch or do anything, our mere presence there is causing a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, what if I'm wearing futuristic sneakers, and I'm standing in the mud or the dirt or something like that, and when I leave, my footprint is still there, and someone just happens to stumble across it, says, that's an interesting looking footprint. I've never seen that design before, and then then this person creates Nike or something like that, and then the person who did create Nike, well, then that changes his life. It's just
we'd all be millionaires. We can just look up the lottery numbers. We'd all be millionaires.
That's what I would do.
No, I mean it's a ridiculous notion, and it would probably lead to the downfall of humanity.
I do agree with that. I mean, stuff happens for a reason. There's a specific reason why these things happen to everybody. Why it happens? There's a specific location it's going to, a point that it's going to, and this stuff needs to happen. And if we change it, it's just going to demolish everything. But still, it's still interesting to see that once again this Unexplained Pictures Twitter that I follow, they have some really neat pictures of what they say are futuristic people.
Right, with a cell phone in like 1920 or something like that. Things like. Have you seen those? Where the guy is wearing sunglasses that are from the modern age, but it's a picture from 1940 or
something like that. Yeah, and then the one I just saw recently that they posted that made me, I think, want to go back and look at their timeline was they had one of a kid actually, it was like a 10-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid or something like that, was at the Gettysburg Address, and there's a picture of him. He wasn't wearing like modern dress or anything, but it was a barefoot kid. That looked a little out of place, that there was a picture of him at the Gettysburg Address. And then the story that they were writing is that there was some sort of DARPA foundation or something from '72 that was sending kids back in time.
Oh.
It sounds like a science fiction story,
It is science fiction.
It is, yeah. Because obviously time travel doesn't exist, or if it did, I absolutely agree with you. I think there would be something that would happen that would get our attention or something like that. I don't know. Okay, enough time travel talk. It's interesting though. I like that. I like the talk. So now, have you ever seen the Blair Witch Project, Larissa?
Of course. Yes, I like that movie very much, and I think it's scary.
It is. It's
like it. They're divided. I think either people like it or hate it. It seems like they're either like, it's really terrifying, or it's so stupid. And I mean, when I first saw it, the whole leading up to the end was, it was a little stressful and hard to watch, but the end just, to this day, every time I see it, it chills me. And it's scary because I always grew up kind of like with woods around me, including now, and so you hear things and it's like, oh God. And I remember being at my grandmother's house. She lived in a place called the Woodlands actually, and there was deep woods in the back, and I kept hearing the same noise they heard in the movie. Kind of like that. What is going on? And of course, you live in Maryland, right? And it's not too far from Burkett.
No, Burkittsville. Yeah, that's where it was filmed. Yeah, the guys are from the area.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting about it was the leading up to it, the promotion for the movie itself was what I really enjoyed. Sci-Fi commissioned a documentary, making it believable, making it seem
So
like.
real, right? It's amazingly like convincing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the documentary talks about like the history of Blair, Maryland, and how it turned into Burkittsville, and all these, and they use like old photographs from historic, like newspapers, stuff like that, to explain their story, and this, they built it up so perfectly that you wanted to go see this movie, even though you knew it was a movie, you knew it wasn't real, but they were trying to sell it as being a real found footage film. And actually, somebody I know. I happened to, I was working at WLAF 101.9, the radio station, and there's a movie theater in the same building we were in, and I had just finished a event, and Blair Witch had just come out, I think, so I figured, you know what, me and my friend are going to go down to see this movie, so we're going to hang out there, and we watched the movie, and we liked it, and as I'm leaving, I noticed somebody else that I knew was in the theater also. I was like, hey, how's it going? Did you like the movie? And they were like stunned. They were like, huh? What? And I found out later they thought it was real. I was
the acting is so good. It's just, I'm always blown away. And maybe, I don't know, maybe people are out there going, oh, please, what an idiot. But I thought it was so well done. It was so, it was so creepy.
It is, and it's the whole. Yeah, the whole found footage genre is very interesting if done properly. And this was one of the very first ones to bring it back into prominence. And the fact that, but I think a lot of people had the problem with was that the trio were just getting, all it was just them yelling at each other. But let's look at the facts here. If you and two other people were in these spooky woods,
it's realistic.
It's realistic. You lost your map. You don't have the GPS, so you don't know where the hell you are. You don't know if you're going to make your way out.
A million times, because I know I would, and they do. But that's the thing. It wasn't sugar coated. It wasn't like, oh, friggin' A, like it was just like.
Exactly. It seemed like that, and as I said, that documentary made it truly feel like this could have been a real event. And as I said, it affected a few people. They actually believed that it was a true event. And I agree with you. That ending is still still chills me.
But and we're talking about this because recently in England, 2 women were camping and had similar experiences.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That was you got it. You got it. Very good. Yeah,
I know my stuff.
Oh yeah, sure. But they were just saying that they had a sense of they were hearing things walking around in the woods. They had a sense of being watched. One of the women whistled and got a response whistle back. They took some pictures. They discovered a glowing being or something in the back or in the woods somewhere watching them. And then they said right around 1 a.m. is when they started hearing the baby crying, and that's what freaked them out. And then they did what smart people did. They said, I'm getting the hell out of here, and they packed up and they ran out of the woods.
They were able to. A few things I could break this down again. Live near the woods. I'll be laying on my deck in the summer, getting some sun, and I hear 10 times twigs breaking. I mean, it's squirrels. We have deer around here. It could be a million different things. Not a million, but I mean, I'm always hearing something scurrying around. And if it's big enough, it sounds pretty ominous, And I'll look, and then you see the squirrel run or a cat, The baby crying. I'm not sure how a baby fox sounds, but sometimes certain animals sound like babies crying. Cats sound like babies crying when they're, at some point, or when they make certain noises. But I think there's a lot of explanations, and I really think that, 2 20-somethings hanging out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, I don't know what possessed them to do that in the first place, but I know if I were out there with my girlfriend, we'd be like, it's the noise. We heard a noise, or we heard this, or we saw this, or we felt like we were being watched. Of course, you're gonna. I think it's all very,
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that I thought of also, is that maybe there. I mean, it's the woods. I mean, you're not the only people in the woods. It could be animals. It could be hunters. It could be
their boyfriends playing a prank on them.
Exactly, but I just found it interesting is that they compared it to the Blair Witch because of all the weird sounds, and then the glowing picture in the woods, that could be anything. Once again, reflection of the sun off of the water or whatever. It's could be interesting. But the fact is, I found it was interesting, and I hadn't had a real thought about Blair Witch for a while, but there wasn't the headline. It was like they have a real life Blair Witch happened in Bristol. So
In England, it's all go. Let's all just move to England because all the good stuff happens over there.
it really does.
There's Michael Jackson, the Blair Witch. Loch Ness is over in Great Britain. It's Scotland, but come on.
But still, it's in the same general area. Absolutely.
Yeah. What do we have here? What do we have here?
We have Champ. And Bigfoot. That's about it.
There's one up. We have Raystown Lake up about an hour from me. There's Raystown. Ray lives in there, so.
And then they supposedly there was a Chessie down here, the Chesapeake Bay. That was it was based on one video back in the '80s, and there's been no sightings since then. So it was probably like a manatee or something like that, because we've had those in the area swimming around.
I mean, people see what they want to see, and will let a story, be created, and they'll run with it. Anything to be in the news. I mean, we're talking about these two ladies, in the woods. So, whatever was done to them, possibly by pranksters, we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. There we are. Yeah. I found it interesting that the comparisons with the Blair Witch was kind of interesting. This one's kind of interesting. You probably posted this. I don't recall. This is back a couple weeks ago. It was the ghost that was seen running through the stands of a football game. Football being soccer over in Europe. And I watched the video. It was actually interesting, but I'm sure you probably could doctor it. But the fact is, there's this black shape just running through the stands, and it's running past people who aren't even reacting to it. So if it was a real person or whatever, you'd think that maybe you'd see a slight change in the way they're sitting or move out of the way. And this thing was moving really, really fast too. It was a dark black shadow just going whoosh across the. I mean, it could be anything. Heck, it could have been maybe an airplane flying overhead.
Yeah.
Just happened to have a look at that. But when you see the video though for the first time, it's kind of like, wow, that's kind of freaky to see that. But then gradually, as you start thinking about it a little bit more, it's like, yeah, there could be any number of explanations for it.
There's always going to be something, and there's always going to be somebody to debunk it or say it's something else. And you said we were going to talk about skepticism too. I mean, it's just always going to be there. I don't think we're ever. No matter what's put out there, I really don't think we're ever going to have this, this is definitely a ghost, this is definitely Bigfoot, this is definitely an alien. There's always going to be somebody saying it was doctored, it's photoshopped, it's fake, it's a guy in a suit, it's bull, and it makes me sad because we might be missing out on some really cool scientific stuff out there. So I am a skeptic, but I'm a healthy skeptic, and I do keep a part of my mind open to these things because, I think otherwise you're just too arrogant, for words. Then.
Yeah, I know some people like that. So I think
how do you know? Like it's like when the Earth was flat, people thought that, and we're adamant about it. No, it's. And now look, I mean, that's why it's like I don't want to look like a jerk, when it comes out. It's like, oh, what's the harm in leaving a little place in your mind open to maybe Bigfoot or aliens or ghosts or whatever. I mean,
it's true, and we will discuss that in a little bit. But speaking of aliens, I find this fascinating. I find it interesting. I am a Catholic. I'm not a strict, strident Catholic. I believe in some of the aspects of the Catholic Church, but there are a lot that I have issues with and stuff like that. And what I like, though, is I like the new Pope. I like Pope Francis. I think he's bringing a lot of really interesting ideas. To me, it seems like he's bringing Christianity maybe closer to the 21st century. To me, Pope Benedict seemed like he was old school type of guy who was trying to stay, keep the way it was back in the 20th century and earlier. Pope Francis seems like the very first person to me who appears to be someone who is completely different than most of the popes that I've noticed before. I mean, he's a guy that he's a no free. The name itself, he's a no frills pope. He the story I saw now, he's going to like Israel or something, or somewhere in the Middle East, and he's going around. He says, I'm going to go around without any bulletproofing. I'm just going to drive around a regular car and just walk around. You know, there's possibility people are going to try to kill him, but you know what? He doesn't care. He wants to go out and he wants to help people. That's what he does. Now, what all this has to do with the paranormal is that he was interviewed a while back, and he mentioned that if aliens happen to come down to Earth, and one of the first things they came to say that they would like to enter the church or whatever, I don't know why they would, but you know, they decide they wanted to.
The last thing they're going to do.
Exactly. But the Pope said,
Catholic. No, I'm sorry. They'll be like, I'm going this way. No. I have something positive to say about this, believe me.
But what's cool is that the Pope says, yeah, hell yeah, I'd baptize them if they wanted to. I mean, everybody, yeah. Well, he didn't say hell yeah, but he said, I would baptize them if they want to enter the church. Hey, by all means, the more the merrier, you know, I don't care. Come on in.
Yeah. I think that whole interview, I don't know. I think he was just kind of using that as a way to say we're very welcoming now. And no matter where you're from, who you are, what you are, the Catholic Church will embrace you with open arms. I think that's what he's saying.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I'm not thinking he's saying aliens exist or they don't exist. I think it's more, just we're a much more welcoming church now. We're not as closed-minded as the former Catholic Church. And I do think, my biggest problem with Christians is, of all Christians, is they claim to follow Christ but do not, adhere to Christ's teachings or ways. They are hypocrites, judgmental. Oh, I don't like them. I remember I went into a Latin Catholic church, when I actually used to be a practicing Catholic. I don't, obviously, anymore, but they looked at me like I was like, what are you doing here? Who are you? And I thought, you assholes. Seriously, like, how dare you? You're supposed to be welcoming, and they judge. And this Pope, my point is, this Pope seems most Christ-like, most accepting, and, I like that. So I will give kudos to the Pope and how he is trying to reform the Catholic Church. So, I'm not saying that's all Christians. I don't want to get, slammed here, but, that's my problem, just who do you think you are? Like, why you claim to be this way, but then, don't act like this. But my point is with the Pope that I like that he brought up aliens. Bring up zombies too. Bring up whatever. Bigfoot can join the Catholic Church.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I have no issue with what you said. In fact, I agree with a lot you're saying, because being a Catholic, what my main mindset is I believe you treat everybody the same. Yeah. Jesus says that. He says you treat everybody the same. Everybody is your brother and sister. You do not exclude these people. You do not exclude these people. You do not be mean to these people because they're different or they're poor or they're richer or whatever. We are all one. We're all one people, and we need to love everybody. And that's what Jesus is all about. Jesus is all about preaching love. And exactly. So, what?
Look at her pants. What's wrong with you people? Or I don't like this group, or I don't like that group, or we're not going to let them in, and they don't have these rights, and oh, good. Sorry.
Exactly. No. I agree. I agree with that. And
aliens, come on in.
I know, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what it was. It was him saying, "Hey, if aliens did come down, we'd gladly welcome into the parish." And that's the same as anybody. If you used to be a Protestant, or you used to be Jewish, or you used to be whatever, and you want to come in and become a Catholic, by all means, come on and join us. The more the merrier, that type of thing. So. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why.
It also could indicate, the migration away from religion and the church too. It's kind of like I don't know if it's a desperate move, but almost like well, I remember when I was a kid, um, it was confirmation, so I was in like eighth grade. I wanted my aunt to be my sponsor, but she was married to a divorced man, and they wouldn't allow it.
Oof.
So, it was one of those like, we're not, and now at this point, anybody could get married in the church. I remember like working with a woman who was going on to her second marriage. Her and her husband, her fiance were previously married and divorced, and going and wanted to get married. They got married in the Catholic Church. That is unheard of, and in the past, like hell no, you were divorced, you are dead to us, basically. And they were able to get married, and I was shocked. So I mean, it's kind of like we'll take what we could get now. It's aliens, like I said. I don't know. I mean, and that's good. That's how it should be.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Like, what is this exclusion crap? Oh God, I'm sorry. Move on.
No, it's fine. Yeah, we'll move on. We can move on. Speaking of Bigfoot, he's not religious, but there's a possibility he might be. There's a mystery figure was spotted in the British Columbian mountains, up there in Canada, that some hikers believe could be Bigfoot, but they were far enough away they couldn't tell if it was maybe just an errant hiker or whatever, but they said it was big and he was moving up the hill, in a lumbering type of way. So could be anything. So Bigfoot's still getting sighted, still making his way around, and he's up in Canada now, so it's a good area to be.
Nice in Canada. That's where
Oh yeah.
Nice up there. That's where I would go if I were Bigfoot.
I love British Columbia. I absolutely adore it. To be honest, and to be fair, that's the only part of Canada I've ever been in. So I've been in British Columbia, and it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous up there.
Cool.
Before we get to the final three, the last three on our list are all connected. I just want to get them to the Q&A. Holly says hi. So hi, Holly. Good to see you. And then John McGivna either is joking or maybe misunderstood what I said. He said, "Hi, Dylan. Hi, Larissa. Look forward to you guys talking about Sedona. It's a beautiful part of the country." Yes, it is. My sister actually went on her honeymoon out in there, but I was talking about Cydonia, which is a location on Mars where a number of pyramids were supposedly discovered by one of the overhead. But back in like the 70s when Viking was still around, they had some pictures of these strange-looking formations that appeared to be pyramid buildings or whatever, all together in like almost like a city area right near where the face on Mars is, and they've named that whole area Cydonia. So. And then Holly just said, "I saw that video. Dylan traveled really fast." Meaning, I guess the mysterious figure going up the British Columbia mountains. So yeah, we'll see. But Bigfoot. He loves the snow. He loves the mountains. He loves the woods. He loves the nightlife.
Like the boogie. Oh, he'd be fun to go to a disco with, like in the 70s. That's what. See, if I were to time travel, just grab Bigfoot and go Studio 54. Nobody'd even flinch. He'd fit right in.
Exactly. That would be because they're all hairy and
travel wish. Bigfoot.
That's awesome. Getting into to lead into these next three stories, there's a little bit of backstory we need to go. Until recently, there have not been a lot of sightings in Loch Ness, the Loch Ness Monster anymore, which led a lot of people to believe that, okay, maybe Loch Ness is either dead, the Loch Ness Monster is dead, or there never really was anything in the first place, and people just aren't seeing anything anymore. So for the longest time, there have been no there was no sightings of Loch Ness Monster, no sonar sightings, no pings, no nothing. Then some crazy guy, I don't know, was talking about how the reason why that has happened is because the Loch Ness Monster is actually a demon type of creature, and he exorcised it from Loch Ness. But then he said, but you know what though, it's harming Loch Ness's, I don't know, their industry for people coming to visit and stuff like that. And so say, you know what, I'll create unexercising means of bringing him back. So you'll start seeing him.
Ghostbusters when they're in the box, just open it up and
let him back into the water. Whoosh. And you'll get your sightings back. And sure enough, I'll be goddamn. There's 3 stories about Loch Ness that popped up in the last week or so. The first one connecting to what this guy claims that he exorcised this demon, a Buddhist out in the Scotland area, because I guess they're around everywhere. He claims that the Loch Ness monster is a thing called a naga, which is more of like a feeling, a spirit almost, like a feeling that you get. And I didn't quite understand where he was going with that, because I don't know much about the Buddhist religion, but it's not like a physical being, but more of a spiritual being, that when you go to Loch Ness, you're surrounded by all the beauty of Loch Ness, the lake, the forest, the old castles and buildings, and just the experience that there could be something unknown in this lake. Because for those who don't know, Loch Ness is one of the darkest lakes in the world, due to the fact that it's made up mostly of peat, which is like the peat moss you get in your garden and stuff like that. So it's a really dark, ground, and lots of it floating around. So if you stick your head in there and you open your eyes up there, it's almost impossible to see anything because it is so dark. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people believe that the Loch Ness monster could actually live in Loch Ness, because it is so dark and there'd be lots of places for him to hide, and you could be swimming in Loch Ness or whatever and feel someone swim by you, but you couldn't tell if it was a monster or a fish or a log. You couldn't tell what it was because it is so dark, you don't know what it is. So that's one of the reasons why Loch Ness is Loch Ness. So this story comes up that it was more of a spiritual type of being.
It's a serpent deity. Yeah, Naga is in the Buddhist and religion. So yeah,
I actually didn't know that, so that's pretty cool. And then so that was one of the stories, and then not for the story to say, okay, you're actually wrong, it's actual a physical thing. Someone discovered on the Apple satellite app, I guess you get on your phone, over Loch Ness, they discovered this weird shadowy creature in the water, really big, and they couldn't tell what it was. A lot of people say, oh, it's just boat trails. Yeah, it's like boat trails, but there was no boat within view, and they could say, well, it was the wind. Well, it was just this compacted area had this little dark surrounding. The rest of the lake was not as dark. So these apps are always interesting. You find weird things on Google Maps, and you find weird things on like the Apple satellite app, and you.
But I think the satellite, they said something like it takes a series of pictures and it's kind of, I don't know how to explain it technology-wise, but it's more, it's not just one picture. It's just a bunch of them, and it can splice them together.
Like compress or something like that.
Yeah, and just the way it came out was just, it's not. I mean, again, people are just gonna run with anything. They're like, oh, it's. The main consensus with that is that it's a hull of a boat. That that's what it is, and I don't know. The way the camera technology is, it's not like typical like snapshot of something. So.
Yeah, which is true. No, that's absolutely true. And then the last story was a cruise vessel that was on the loch doing their sonar sweeps. They had a sonar hit that they couldn't explain. Once again, so just what I found interesting about these 3 stories is that after almost a year's worth of not hearing anything about Loch Ness, within a span of 1 week, we get 3 stories, and I don't know if that's just because they finally came back to the conclusion, hey, we haven't talked about Loch Ness in a while, why don't we start bringing that back up again, to get away from all the UFO sightings that have been talked about and all the Bigfoot sightings like that. Let's get Loch Ness Monster back to some prominence, so let's just misread what some of these things are. I don't know, is something in there? Possibly. I honestly, I have no problem believing that it could be a plesiosaur from the dinosaur era. I mean, there's plenty of food in the loch, and it's a dark area, and there's supposedly lots of caves that they could hide in. And the only problem is, there would have had to have been more than one. Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, have you seen Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Don't
I sure
you?
have.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe he could spontaneously impregnate themselves, and
Yeah.
that's a possibility. You never know. Or maybe it was like an amoeba, and a piece of it came off of him and created a little baby one and another baby
Oh
one.
my gosh. Yeah. What you were saying, with UFOs, and then it's like the paranormal is cyclical. Like it's just there's like blocks of stories. There's a bunch of ghost stories, bunch of Loch Ness, bunch of UFOs, bunch of Bigfoot, and people don't get sick of them. That's the one thing I've learned. They're the biggest, some of the biggest stories we post, are Bigfoot sightings, UFO sightings, ghosts especially. People love that, and especially celebrity ghosts, like if they're tie-in. But people are never going to get tired of it, it seems, because it's not definitive and it's not proven or disproven, and it's interesting to see the cycles, and I guess we just got a burst of Loch Ness.
And then it'll go away for a little while, and we might get a burst of Bigfoot sightings, or UFOs or ghost sightings. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of celebrity ghosts, we teased it earlier. Larissa wrote for the article for her Paranormal Pop Culture about the ghost of Michael Jackson was seen above a Michael Jackson what is
Impersonator.
Impersonator, yeah. And I still have the story on my phone. Let me see if I can get this, see if it'll pop up on the camera. But this is the close-up. It's probably not going to work out too well. I guess it's.
Yeah, if you go over to Paranormal Pop Culture.
That'd be the best place to go for it. But that's the ghost right there. Is and
it's a green zombie clown.
Exactly, because if you look at it closer, it doesn't even look like him. It looks like this some sort of weird, as you said, some sort of zombie clown with the sunken eyes and the blue face, and maybe he's wearing sunglasses and he's got this flat hair, and it's like, what is this? Yeah. But if you look at the big picture, what it probably was is a reflection of a camera off of a glass or something like that. But definitely go to Paranormal Pop Culture and check it out. Check the article out, because the picture is really good quality. You can make the decision for yourself. But to me, it just looks to me like reflection, flash of light. Yeah, it could be something along the lines of it is a Michael Jackson impersonator. Someone took a picture of the Michael Jackson impersonator, and then the flash reflected the reflection that the impersonator had off of this glass wall. So maybe it was a combination of those things as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect storm.
Yeah. And it was funny about Michael Jackson was I remember I was talking to Larissa about this before the show started, that there was a right around the time after he died, there was like a interview with somebody like the caretaker of his house or something like that, and they were filming this conversation, and the guy was talking, and the camera was filming on him, and behind the guy was this long hallway, and then there was like another room or another hallway down the other end, and while the guy's talking, you see this thing look like it's moonwalking in the background, and it was like, that's Michael Jackson's ghost, he's moonwalking in his house. So
moonwalked in the afterlife. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I always found that I found it one of the funniest things I ever saw. It probably was something.
Yeah, was glove on.
It was hard to see. It was one of those. It was like one of those, the ghostly spirit.
I saw it.
There was no form. There was just the form of the head and just going backwards. It was like,
the pearls.
Exactly. It was crazy. Holly Wilson says, I just saw that. Well, he is dead, Dylan. Yes, he is. And I guess he could be considered a ghost zombie thing, Majacker. He is dead. And then getting back to our discussion about Mars, John McGivness said, well, Mars could be a fun place to vacation. Yes, it could, John. We could.
He's looking for the girl with the 3,
Total Recall, absolutely.
Total Recall girl.
Nice. Okay.
Maybe not.
So I think that's all news. Now, before we get into our skepticism talk real quick. Didn't you go to a convention or something at the beginning of the month, Larissa?
Did.
How did that go?
Talk about it. It was fun. It was the second annual Parahistory Con up in Lake George, run by Glory Hounds. It was a really nice mix. Paranormal events are always fun to go to because there's just a nice grouping of like-minded individuals and sharing ideas. And I got to do a panel on paranormal history, past, present, and future with my friend Frank Sinelli, otherwise known as Dr. Spectre, and he's contributed to Paranormal Pop Culture, and he writes for Taps Para Magazine. Jason Wasley, Jay Wasley from Ghost Adventures, he's the audio tech specialist on the show now, and he's seen regularly on the episodes. And Patrick Burns, he's an author, photographer, TV show host, and his wife Marley Gibson, they were on the panel as well. She's an author, a young adult author, Ghost Huntress series. So we all talked about, history of paranormal, and it was really interesting. And there were all other panels too. Ben Hansen was there. He did a presentation about Bill Clinton. I believe I'm sure he talked about other things, but Bill Clinton and the whole alien UFO conspiracy thing that just came out. So it was a good mix of people. It was a lot of fun, and got to go back to Fort William Henry. Do a little investigation there with some of the Darkness Radio folks. So Dave Schrader, Tim Dennis. So I wrote a piece about just the thing I love most about paranormal events, if they offer it, is seeing these historical places. I'm not that great at history. I wasn't a big history buff in high school, but I really love. To me, that's time travel right there. If you want to travel in time, go to one of these events, or just go to one of our amazing historical sites that our country has to offer, and just learn about it and explore it and be in the place where history happened. It's just, I love doing that. So.
No, I agree, because those who don't know me, that's what I got my my Bachelor's of Arts degree in from college. I'm a history major, so I have a BA in history because I've always found it interesting, and I still do. And I love going to these types of places and stuff like that. It's funny you brought that up. This isn't really ghost related, but last Sunday obviously was Mother's Day, and my mother, she works on Sundays at a place called the Homewood House, which is on the grounds of Johns Hopkins University, and I can't remember the history of it. I really should know. I should know the history of it. But one of the big wigs who signed the Declaration of Independence from Maryland, I think Charles Carroll or something like that, who was mentioned in the National Treasure movies. He had bought this house on the land that became Johns Hopkins University, and he was able to. He also gave the land to Johns Hopkins to create his university, and his house still stands there. The Homewood House still does, and it's now a museum. And my mom is a docent, which is, for those who don't know, is someone who is a tour guide basically, and goes around and shows you all the stuff. And so we went down to visit me, my wife Dawn, and our two kids went down to visit her to surprise her for Mother's Day, since we hadn't seen her. We didn't see her on Saturday because we were down at my wife's family's house. So we went down to surprise her. It was a beautiful day, and so we drove down to Johns Hopkins, and we surprised her, and she was really blown away by it. And luckily they weren't busy. There wasn't anybody there. And she had a coworker with her, so the coworker watched the gift shop where they both work, and then my mom took us on a tour of the Homewood House, and it was just the way it's set up. I mean, you just feel the history. I mean, there's those people who, when they go into like haunted locations, they get those feelings, like the chills and stuff like that. Well, you get that kind of at historical sites as well, but it's not because it's haunted. It's because you're walking down the same hallways as like maybe a George Washington or a Thomas Jefferson or a Charles Carroll or someone of historical significance, and you get that little chill. And then, like any other historical place, they have actual pieces from the time period. Like they have the dining room, so my mom showed us the dining room, and they have a dining room table is all set up with all the china from the 1600s, 1700s, and it's just interesting to see. They have weird pictures, on the walls. Like, well, this is the thing, these were people really like to have on their walls in the 1700s, were these really bizarre pictures that were in there. There was a really cool clock, like an old grandfather style clock that had the phases of the moon and like the sun carved into it, so that it would have something that would follow. Like if it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun would be, the picture of the sun would be like right there. There'd be something that would show the sun, and then gradually as the night wore on, like 6 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, then it would shift over to the moon, and it would show this is daytime, this is nighttime. So just really cool stuff. And then just the old musty smells, the way that they used to live. I mean, they showed an old bathtub. I mean, a bathtub is nothing more than like a giant bucket that they used to sit in, And my mom was like, this is a metal bucket. So they poured the hot water in it. You couldn't stay in the bath that long because the heat of the water would heat up the metal, and it would become really, really, really hot. It'd be almost like you were boiling yourself if you didn't get out of there quickly. So she was like saying that, and stuff like that happened. And she took us some behind the scenes stuff, like where the offices were, and there's some people who are refurbishing some of the busts that they had there. The face statues and stuff like that. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I get the historical aspect of it. I mean, it's just a feeling you get. And it's really kind of cool. So you had a good time, which is
Yep.
good.
Yep, always a good time.
All right, let's see. Let's just hit this real quick, and then we'll probably call it a day. I've been pushing this also, getting people to rush the show a little bit. I had a thought recently about skepticism. Now, Larissa said she's a healthy skeptic. Honestly, I'm a healthy skeptic also, but I think I believe a little bit more than maybe you might, Larissa, about certain things. But I do keep, as we discussed, yeah, it might be like that, absolutely. But I do still have that healthy skepticism, though. But to me, though, a lot of the stuff that I've seen, there are a lot of skeptics out there who are just rabid skeptic that says there is no way in hell that there could be a Bigfoot. There's no way in hell that could be UFOs. or hell. Yeah, there's no way in hell there can be a hell.
There's no way in hell there's a hell.
And to me, what makes someone be that skeptical about something and not have an open mind about things, like I know you do, and I know I do, and that's just, it's more of a hypothetical, rhetorical type of question that I'm throwing out there. But
I could bring the psychology into this.
If you want to, I mean, I was just throwing it out there. I mean, do you have any reason why you think that might be?
I think upbringing, how your parents raised you, anybody else in your family raised you. Life experiences, things you've seen or haven't seen as a child or growing up. I do believe there's a tendency toward it. I think there's a gene. I think your brain is wired a certain way. I think, I don't want to get in trouble with this statement, but maybe level of intelligence. Mental illness can come into play. I do have a master's in psychology. I've worked in the mental health field. People who are very sick mentally, schizophrenic, especially, I hate to, and untreated, let's say. What I've seen, it's not 100%, but they tend to be fixated, on religion, let's say, or things that, are not scientifically proven. Don't want to get in trouble with that, but, it is, sex and religion, they tend to be preoccupied with. And that's, there's studies out there. You can go look them up. But I think a lot of things, people are skeptical for tons of reasons. Like I said, it could just be personality too. I mean, but I do think, how you were raised and how you were raised to think, and just wanting to, some people just want to believe, and some people don't. It's just, but I don't know.
that makes sense. It was just a thought that just occurred to me last week. I was just like, this might be something interesting to talk about on the show because
a lot of factors, and
and maybe this isn't skepticism so much as, and we discussed this a little bit earlier before the show also, but to me that let's jump back a little bit. I think last month sometime there was we talked about this on the show last month. There was a shot from the Mars rover, going back to Mars again, the Mars rover, that they discovered this bizarre light in the distance, shooting up from the surface, and no one could really explain at first, what it was off of, right out of the bat. What it was. The believers are like, well, there's proof right there that there's probably aliens living under the ground, and somehow they opened up their door and they have light, and the light popped up, and we just happened to shoot a picture. The Mars rovers happened to shoot a picture right at the right time to do that. And then there were the skeptical people who jumped right in and said, no, it's gamma rays, or it's dust on the lens, or it's a lens flare, or it's a flash from the sun, a reflection off of the ground. And Barry Vencedor is like, praise science, yes.
Science, Barry.
Science, thank you, Barry. And that goes with a lot of other stuff with the government also. It's just like, that's not UFOs. Those aren't aliens. You're seeing things. It's lights, it's the planet Venus. It's swamp gas, it's faked. Everything, there is no such thing as UFOs. And you're going to probably, you can, as you did before the show, you can bitch slap me down again on this one, but what I'm about to say is that the government, the Marines or whatever, have a plan in case of a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant by bitch slapping me down. That's what we discussed earlier. About what we discussed earlier. But they don't. They scoff at the idea that there are UFOs and aliens out there.
Right.
Commence the bitch slapping.
Do they though? Now, when you said that, though, does the government completely shoot down that fact? Is that what you're saying?
From what I've gathered is that they are not open-minded enough to believe that there possibly could be something out there that could be of alien origin, or that UFOs are in fact aliens. I mean, they close the door on everything. They close the door on the bodies recovered at Roswell as being, dummies from a test thing, or the bizarre ships flying overhead that we don't recognize are top secret, or the reason they scoff at it being real, but then when people bring up the fact that there's this stuff, they say, oh well, that was just top secret tests for the stealth bomber, stuff like that, stuff that we know about now.
Hiding something. I mean, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I think they have their reasons.
I mean,
I'm not a big alien person, but I don't know. I don't trust. I don't trust the government.
But the point though you did make before the show was that when you read the piece that I was discussing about them having a plan for the zombie apocalypse, it was more along the lines, right, of a hypothetical preparation thing, right. Correct?
Yeah, be prepared. I said, I think a lot of this zombie preparedness, the CDC has a plan. We're referring to the Pentagon having there's this documentation. I think, if they can get people to be prepared for an emergency by way of interjecting a pop culture reference that will make their ears perk up and make us talk about it and make it, visible on sites like, our site, or just, get into the news, if that'll save us in some way by making us pay attention, then, mission accomplished. I mean, like I said, the zombie preparedness stuff is just basic disaster preparedness. Have this amount of food, water, Band-Aids, medicine, clothes. That's all it is, and there is, the Zombie Research Society does a really cool job, and they're a really cool group. They'll teach you how to make, what is it? Beth did it with Daryl. It's a way you dig 2 holes so the smoke, it's not visible.
Okay.
Yourself, I forget what it's called. It's got a name, but they'll teach those things, and it's just a way to there's survival techniques, and you never know what's going to happen. Something, I'm not saying Godzilla or zombies or aliens, But any kind of disaster can, we should always be prepared. I'm not prepared, but maybe if it gets us talking about it and it gets us to put some provisions together and store them somewhere, then that's a good outcome of whatever they're trying to put out there. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I agree with that, and that's probably why they do it. But the thing with the UFOs and the government is that every time something comes up that's unexplained via a UFO sighting, something that doesn't seem like seems to be in the right spot, like some bizarre looking object or whatever on Mars or Venus or Europa or whatever.
Space, but it could be they're trying to hide something to protect us. From other countries who want to kill us. It could very well be, some kind of government mission or whatever, or ship. When we see something, there could be like, oh shit, that's our new X4 2713 thing that's going to protect us from when,
North Korea or whatever gets invaded or something.
Yeah. And they're not going to admit to it. They're just going to maybe like shut up, shut up about it. But I mean, then they're not doing a really good job of hiding it. But
yeah, I know. I agree. It's just that I understand that a lot of Area 51 is probably was a top secret Air Force base where they created the stealth bomber, where they created these types of ships, where they're continually, because that's you'd be naive to believe that they are not at this time creating the next level of airplane, warplane, whatever.
Be on the down low. They need, it's the government.
Yeah, I do understand that, but when you talk about stuff that happens outside of the Earth, on Mars, on the Moon, on Europa, whatever, bizarre signals from outer space, stuff like that, they tend to brush them off as being, just solar flares or gamma rays, or that rock is, you're looking at it a specific way and that's not really a face looking at you. It's more along the lines of just the way the shadows are. And yes, they could be absolutely right, because when it comes to UFOs and aliens, I think I'm a bit more of a believer than I am of a skeptic, and I'll be the first person to admit that. I'm fine with that. But at the same time, though, I will be the first one to admit that, okay, maybe that ray of light that was discovered on Mars could have been a lens flare, or could have been a reflection off of something, a rock, or natural light or something like that. And that's the other thing also, getting back to Earth, a lot of these strange lights you see, like the Marfa lights and stuff like that you see in the in St. Elmo's fire and stuff like that you see around the area, is not necessarily extraterrestrial in origin. It's more along the lines of something that the Earth is doing that we might not understand, because we haven't fully explored all the possibilities that our Earth does. What the stuff, I mean, we know stuff about the Earth, about what it radiates and stuff like that, but there might be some things that they just don't understand, that these Marfa lights or whatever could be some sort of physical something from the Earth that needs to be done, some sort of reaction that comes from the Earth up to the sky, mixing with stuff like that. So I get that. It's just right away when something unusual takes place outside of the Earth, out in space or whatever, the first inkling is to brush it off as being something else. And that, well, my first instinct is that I don't like that.
What do you want them to say?
I don't know. I mean, okay, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
what?
I mean, I want them to say that we're not exactly sure what it is.
Okay.
Not just to come up with, oh yeah, it's swamp gas.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is swamp gas. Could be, or it could be the planet Venus. Yes, it could be.
I don't mean to get, but what do you, maybe it is. Maybe they're not unsure about what it is. Maybe they're like, that's what it is, or I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right, and I do understand. It's just I guess I want there to be some sort of proof that an open-mindedness, or some sort of, or for those of us who might believe in that type of stuff, not to so readily shoot down our ideas. I mean, if you know for a fact that it is swamp gas, you know for a fact that that's the planet Venus, and that's fine. That's good, and I can accept that. But then sometimes they just brush it aside, or they come up with some outlandish stories. I don't know. It's just years of UFO conspiracies are all in my head right now, and you're right. And maybe I need someone like you to say what did you expect them to say? What do you want them to say? And to be honest, I don't know what I want them to say. I just don't want them. I don't want them to say that I'm crazy, that I believe that this is something that might not be man-made or earth-made or whatever, that it could be something extraordinary. And maybe that's what I want to hear, is that that they're open to the fact that there is possibility of extraordinary things out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like everything that they bring up is a way to shoot it down. And yes, and it's true. It could very well be absolutely everything that they say could be the absolute truth. It could be this. It could be that. But still,
you're like and I mean this you're like a little kid who still wants to believe.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to figure out the best way to say, like, about Santa or the Easter Bunny or
no,
stuff like that.
And this is a positive thing. This is, I'm not shooting. It's like you just want to still like believe in magic and believe that there's wonder out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like and you want other people to acknowledge that, and I just think the government is just going to be the government.
You're right. Yeah, they're never going to probably reveal the existence of anything until it literally blows you up, bites you in the ass.
Yeah.
Like in Independence Day. Let's take a science fiction movie for that way. They would keep saying, "Oh yeah, UFOs don't exist," but then all of a sudden, all these giant UFOs are now over all the big cities in the world. It's like, okay, well, we can't say that this isn't anything because it's something, and we have all this proof that it is something crazy out there. And I just love the fact that when Judd Hirsch's character is like, you've known about this all along. You have that Area 51, and Bill Pullman's like, "Sir, no matter what you may have read in the tabloids, there is no alien visitors, no Area 51." And then the slimy government guy's like, "Well, that's not exactly true."
Yeah, like in that movie, the president didn't even know. Like that's how and that's probably pretty accurate.
Which brings up the whole Bill Clinton thing also, because for those who might not know, I mean, people were asking about, when you were president, did you ever ask about the truth behind like the Kennedy assassination or UFOs or whatever, and he said that I think he said he did ask, but he didn't really get any information, or all the stuff that he was given pretty much proved to him that nothing had happened. Was that am I remembering that correctly?
I'm really not familiar with I'm aware of the situation and what the whole questioning and stuff, but I don't know what the outcome was. I don't.
I think he didn't say that. He didn't say that he saw anything definitively that aliens existed or that there were bodies recovered. And
would he be able to divulge that if he did?
That's the thing, is that I don't know, because yes, he's no longer president. He's in the public sector, but you know what? Your wife is still in the government in some form. I mean, she's not Secretary of State anymore, but she still lingers around there, and the possibility of her running for president, in the next election, you're going to be back in the government fold, or maybe, once a president, always a president type of thing, where you've got to toe the line the whole time. Because if that was the case, then every other president would reveal this is what happened, or this is what I discovered. Yes, John F. Kennedy was killed by the U.S. government. And
there are some mysteries in this world, tangible and intangible, that are never going to be solved or revealed. And cool, because I think without mystery, life is just boring. And I think that's why people love the paranormal, love conspiracy theory, love the idea of, other, life on other planets. And I just think that we need to, just say it's a mystery. and let's just keep wondering. Because without it, we're shells, we're automatons, We get up, we go to work, we come home, make dinner, eat dinner, put our pajamas on, watch some shitty TV, and then get up and do it again. At least let's hold on to that, one mystery in our lives. So
and then maybe that's what my whole belief system is when it comes to certain things. But yeah, as we discussed earlier, when we were doing the news, I was able to help you debunk a lot of the stuff also. And there have been a couple of personal sightings. Like I remember one day when I was sleeping, I thought that a my door opened. I thought I saw like a little child, opening the door, and this was at 3 in the morning or whatever, and I knew it wasn't my daughter because I said her name and nothing happened. But then in the light of day, I went up there and I took a look at it and started to debunk it, and the door it's on a loose angle, so and the slightest thing could move it. Yeah, and then the supposed little girl that I saw, well, I have like the white post of my staircase is right there, so I could have looked, and it was 3 in the morning also. I was half asleep, so I looked in there. It was dark, and the door was cracked up enough that what you saw looked like a little girl, but it was basically the white post to my stairs. So I was like, okay, that's probably what it was. Or when I worked at an old warehouse, there was I was all by myself, and I heard what sounded like footsteps or something above me. And there was like a little wooden platform type of thing above me for storage, and I thought it was a friend of mine trying to scare me. So I said, hey, good try, I know you're there. And so when he didn't respond, I walked around just to try to scare him or say I gotcha or whatever, and I walked up this ladder to look up there, and there was nothing up there. But then I started thinking about it a little bit. It's an old warehouse. It's drafty. It was windy that day, so what probably happened was the wind was coming through the cracks in the upstairs, and it was coming across the floor, and it was creaking them enough to make it sound like there's someone tromping around upstairs. So I debunked that also. But there's just some things, as you said, that maybe I want to keep the mystery alive. I want to believe so much in the magic that something extraordinary is out there that
And don't stop. Why stop? Just. I love you too, Holly. Holly's.
Yeah, she sounded good. Yeah, you just said, yeah.
Oh, I'm blushing.
And then Barry's like, everything is compartmentalized. President does not have to need to know. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't need to know everything about that. And then Holly set up the YouTube talk of Ben Hanson's analysis of the Bill Clinton thing. So that's YouTube. So check that out. Just go to YouTube, write Ben Hanson, Bill Clinton probably, and it'll probably pop up. All right, I think we've covered everything we wanted to today. Thanks again, Larissa, for coming out.
You're welcome. I hope I wasn't too controversial.
Controversial.
I like the British say it, controversy. I hope I wasn't too controversial. Can't say it. Or maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
But no, it was a good discussion, a good time, and we get to do it again next month. So woohoo! Let's see what's going on for us upcoming this week. Thursday is new Snark Alec Radio. Larissa's been on Snark Alec Radio before a bunch of times. I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing this week, but they are up on Thursdays, 9 p.m. So listen to them. It's going to be a similar format the way we're doing it, but they talk about pop culture stuff and other things as well. This upcoming weekend is our Memorial Day weekend. Hooray! So 3-day weekend for most people coming up. So that Saturday, I guess the 23rd, 24th, is going to be my Dylan Knows Batman Part 2 show with DH Gamer and MJ Khan. We had so much fun doing the first one.
Do you like the new costume, Batman?
Not a big fan of it. But as I said, it's just one picture in black and white, basically, kind of the. But I understand what they're going for. They're going for the older Batman look, and that's kind of what it looked like to me. It just looked like it was a little bit too much bulked up, for me.
Very bulky. I don't get the striations. I don't know if that's supposed to be veins, and if so, why are there veins on the suit?
Exactly.
That tight.
I guess only time will tell. So
they just revealed Wonder Woman too, but it was like kind of she was getting into a car or something.
I haven't seen that, so I have heard. I did see somebody tweeting about that, so I have to see if I can find that. So that's next Saturday. We've got that, and then Sunday is my first ever regular Dylan Knows International, which is my roundtable discussion, which I'm probably going to get you on one of these months, Larissa. It's just a little fun thing where we just, well, it's because my co-host is Bronwyn, who is from Canada. So basically, that is technically international, and I've had Matthew Foster from London on before also. So I've done a couple specials, and I really enjoyed them. And basically, it's just I call it my roundtables thing. It's a Sunday afternoon. You know, you have on the TV, you've got all the political roundtables. This is more of just a roundtable talking about whatever we feel like. Yeah, exactly. It's whatever we feel like. So we start off every episode with the rant, where every one of the people on the show, they rant about something. You know, like I ranted about how people park in my neighborhood. You know, just a simple little thing there. Bronwyn ranted about why is there no unicorns. You know, stuff like that. Just little fun.
Say, she's Canadian. She has no wish. She's too nice to rant. It's also nice.
But and then that leads to more discussion and other stuff. So we're gonna have Bronwyn. What was that?
What?
Oh, that was me. Okay. Oh no, I'm hearing me on your end.
Michael Jackson. It's Michael Jackson.
This is weird.
Way to end the show.
Exactly.
Ghost coming by.
But I've got on my first episode of Dylan Knows International, I've got Bronwyn, Tony Solo, and Mike from Pagan. And that's it. It's driving me crazy. This episode's driving me crazy. So I'm going to sit down now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.